What's going on, everyone? I got a message from someone about their account that absolutely broke my heart. I want to get into that and talk about a few other things. This is Mike, the Tactical Stock Scalper. All right. You know, people won't, I have my notes here, so I'm going to look down from time to time, okay? People won't learn until it's too late on being over leveraged. They're not going to learn. Now, let me get into this message I got from somebody first, okay? This guy got margin called in February and April. He was 6 months away from paying off his margin. And his high yield account, these are his words, got wrecked, okay? He was 6 months away from paying off his margin. He's shell-shocked. He did this to himself and his family. He's older, okay? And his retirement is in trouble, and looks like he may be possibly having to rely on Social Security. Now, I want to get back to what he said and kind of like, you know, what I would do, I guess, in that situation, but we'll get back to that in a minute. If you are over leveraged and the last crash taught you nothing, you're going to repeat it again. And what I mean by taught you nothing is, let's say, like this last crash, we went through a pullback, then it went to correction stage, and then it just at the very top of a crash stage. We didn't even really crash deep. Honestly, we did. You may have felt like we have or whatever, but we really didn't. It was at the very top of a crash, like it goes in levels. It could have been way worse, and it still may be. This could honestly just be some kind of relief rally or whatever, and then something will happen and plummet the market again. It could happen tomorrow, next week, a month, a year from now. Who knows? But it's going to happen again, and it's probably going to be deeper than this crash. Okay? So if you are over leveraged and this crash taught you nothing, like you're like, okay, I'm in big trouble here with my account. I need to do whatever it takes to get it right. Those other people that don't do that, you won't change until it hits rock bottom. I mean, because listen, this is the way it is with greed and gambling addictions, alcohol, and drugs. I got my dear friend of mine, I've known since I've been 14 years old. We grew up together. We lived across the street from each other as we got older. Dear friend of mine. He was addicted to alcohol. He would drink a handle, you know, those big jugs of vodka, every day. Okay, he lost his kids, his wife, his house, his job, all of it due to his addiction. And it wasn't until he hit absolute rock bottom that he changed his ways. And since that time, became sober, got his kids back, you know, everything was fine after that. But he had to hit rock bottom for that to happen. And that's what's going to happen, maybe, to people that have this gambling and greed addiction. It's going to take another major crash for them to hit rock bottom and realize that this addiction is a serious problem for them. Okay? Now you can see people's degeneracy right now on full display as the market now is recovering, whether it's temporary or we rip up to all-time new highs and we have another bull run for another year or two. Nobody knows, right? But you can see their degeneracy on full display. They're not doing really anything significantly to lower their margin. They're not getting out of positions that they told themselves that they would get out of, right? They promised themselves when we had this crash, and I've seen it all over Reddit, YouTube, Discord, whatever. They promised themselves, like during this crash, that they were never going to go through this again. They were going to alleviate these problems immediately, but they don't, because they didn't hit rock bottom. So now what's happening? They'll be like, I'm going to sell these positions when they get to X price. It gets to X price. Do they sell it? No. Because they're addicted. They have a gambling and greed addiction. Then it goes up a little higher. Do they still sell those positions to alleviate possible ramifications of being over leveraged? Do they do that? No. Well, now you know what? Market keeps going up. I'll sell it when it gets way up there. What if it doesn't? And we crash again. It won't be until they hit rock bottom that they change their ways. And that's really unfortunate that this latest crash has taught people absolutely, not everyone, but a lot of people, absolutely freaking nothing about being over leveraged in high yield funds. Now, I know there's people that got over leveraged in all sorts of funds, but I'm talking high yield funds specifically. So they promise themselves a sell-off, and you just see that doesn't happen because they have an addiction. All they care about is their greed and their addiction. That's it. It won't change until rock bottom is hit. And if you are over leveraged and you kind of suffered some pain, but you didn't hit rock bottom, guys, it's probably time to make some moves ASAP. Like, just in case. We never know what's going to happen. And you were given a wonderful window of opportunity to see what something bad could happen. And that wasn't even worst case scenario. I mean, it was for this guy that sent me the note, okay? But for a lot of people, they haven't hit worst case scenario yet. That was a great lesson to learn about the ramifications of being over leveraged and all that stuff. Now, look, people's money and their accounts or whatever, honestly, it's their money and it's none of my business. Even though some people may put it on public display, it kind of makes it your business, I guess, in a way, but it's still, for me, it's not my business. It's not my money. It's not my account. But when they send me a note like this, or a message, it hits you in a way. And you could see what can happen if you are over leveraged. Now, if this guy is watching this video that sent me this note, and you've waited this long, if you and I were sitting around at the old fire pit, and having a couple beverages after a good meal and just chatting, okay? I'm not, anywhere close to giving anyone any kind of financial advice. But if we were just two guys chilling, talking about our woes, right? I would just say, man, why don't you just build up lower yielding, safer funds? If you need the distributions to help you live off of, right? Why not just build up lower ones? It might not be the yield that you want, right? But the risk is not even close in something like JEPQ or SPY, or there's so many other great funds that don't carry the risk. Drop the margin, okay? Do whatever it takes to get out of it, and buy the safer yielding funds. It might not be the yield you want, but it's the yield you probably need, right? There's a difference between wanting and needing. Wanting is something we want, needing is something we have to have. I learned my lesson with high yield funds, and I've said this numerous times over the past number of months. I don't use margin, so I wasn't even close to having any kind of issues, right? But I learned that for retirement, it was just not going to work for me as a main source of revenue with high yield funds. But that's just me. Just what I learned from my life and my account. You got to do you. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Mike. Tactical Stock Scalper out.